50 years ago, over 1,000 delegates and 10 times as many supporters gathered in New York City to reaffirm Ukraine's sovereignty and appeal to the world's conscience at a time when millions of innocent Eastern Europeans remain trapped behind an Iron Curtain. Although numbering just 3 million back then, the Ukrainian diaspora and its leaders, some who have preceded us, some who are with us here today, had already demonstrated what our people could achieve with a combination of incredible abilities and the indomitable Ukrainian spirit, namely the creation of the organizations and institutions that made possible the gathering of the First World Congress of Free Ukrainians. Throughout the last 2 generations, we succeeded in preserving our cultural identity, our history, our language, and most importantly, our communities. Now that Ukraine has just celebrated the 26th anniversary of independence, we must continue our efforts so that Ukraine remains independent and territorially whole. Останні 3 роки принесли надзвичайно багато випробувань не тільки для України, але для СКУ та світової української громади загалом у зв'язку з незаконною окупацією Криму, проти міжнародного права і Будапештського меморандуму, продовженням агресії та вторгнення Росії в Східну Україну в Донбас. Після 99 років проголошення незалежності України у 1918 році і після 26 років відновлення української незалежності у 1991 році українці знову були покликані стати на захист суверенітету та територіальної цілісності України. І ми, як їхній голос перед урядами світу, стоїмо разом з ними. Ми всі стурбовані кризою, яка є сьогодні в Україні. Від часу героїчної революції гідності 2014 року український народ захищає свою батьківщину від постійної агресії проросійських і пропутінських терористів. На жаль, боротьба триває, і надалі героїчні українці жертвують своїм життям кожного дня, щоб захистити Україну. СКУ працює, щоб заступати інтереси української діаспори усього світу. Найважливіше – це оборона прав та свобід українців, незважаючи на місце їх проживання. СКУ невтомно працює в мобілізації громадської думки українців за межами України для посилення духовного та культурного об'єднання та економічного добробуту як української діаспори, так і України і її незалежності та територіальної цілісності. Наша ціль – це одна об'єднана громада, яка може впливати на наші уряди там, де ми проживаємо, з приводу її закордонної політики, таким чином допомагати Україні у двосторонніх зусиллях та зв'язках. Тому у даний час є дуже важливим для всіх нас, щоб ми говорили одним спільним голосом, оскільки ми є органом, який дійсно може донести до світу, що Україна потребує допомоги і що агресія Росії є загрозою не тільки для України, а також для всього вільного демократичного світу. Але якось до цього історичного моменту ми дійшли. Це досягнення останніх 2 поколінь, які не тільки зберігали своє рідне, але активно працювали і заступали інтереси вільної, незалежної і територіальної цілісної України. Дозвольте згадати деякі ці моменти, бодай з мого терену з Америки. Об'єднані зусилля українсько-американської громади привели до історичних досягнень протягом десятиліть. До них входять законодавче заснування Тижня поневолених націй у 1959 році, побудова постійного пам'ятника Тарасу Шевченку у столиці нашої країни в 1964 році, засновлення у 1967 році Світового конгресу вільних українців, відкриття в 1977 році постійного бюра Українського конгресового комітету у Вашингтоні Українську національну інформаційну службу УНІС. Численні загальнонаціональні заходи в період перед розколом Радянського Союзу в 1990 році. Створення центральної та східноєвропейської коаліції з іншими етнічними національностями в 1994 році. І тут дуже головне – формування Українського конгресового кокусу в Конгресі у Палаті представників в 1990 році, до якого 2 роки тому назад, 2015 року, формувався Сенатський кокус України. Щорічне національне відзначення українського геноциду Голодомору, після чого створено Національний комітет геноциду Голодомору, а також остаточне відкриття Національного меморіалу українського Голодомору геноциду у Вашингтоні у 2015 році. Тема сьогоднішньої пленарної сесії – осмислення найкращих моментів історії української діаспори впродовж останніх 2 поколінь. Переходимо до наших панелістів, до наших доповідачів. Дозвольте представити першого доповідача, пана Михайла Моравського, який буде доповідати на тему створення всесвітньої мережі друзів України. A community and cooperatives activist, Michael Moravski has been the general manager of 2 financial institutions, Newstead and Post-Up in Melbourne, Australia. His community involvement has included leadership roles in the Ukrainian Youth Association of Australia, the Council of Ukrainian Cooperatives in Australia, St. Peter and Paul's Ukrainian Catholic Cathedral, teaching in the Ukrainian Heritage School System, and serving as director of a building committee to develop a seniors' residence. From 1984 to 1995, he served as president of the Australian Federation of Ukrainian Organizations, and since 1995, president of the League for a Free Ukraine and Association of Ukrainian Organizations of Victoria. Пане Моравський.
Дякую, Андрію. Слава Ісусу Христу! В першу чергу хочу вибачитися перед вами, що моя доповідь буде в англійській мові, тому що я не був певний, чи всі учасники сьогоднішньої конференції будуть українці, а може і інші, які не розуміють українську мову. Create a worldwide Friends of Ukraine network. The topic infers that we should create such a network. The short answer is obvious. Yes, we should have a Friends of Ukraine network. But judging by the following, we already have a loose Friends of Ukraine network. Sanctions imposed on Russian government agencies, on Russian companies and Russian oligarchs by many countries subsequent to the annexation of Crimea and the invasion of Donbass by Russia, and the continued upgrading of these sanctions. Secondly, provision of non-lethal military aid and financial assistance to Ukraine by some Western countries. Thirdly, moral support by Western governments to Ukraine. And fourthly, the huge support of the World Congress of Ukrainians and the Diaspora. Should we, Ukraine, be really happy with what has been, with what has been delivered so far? In the context of international political relations, is this all that true friends do? Is this sufficient aid to Ukraine to actually resolve its current problems with Russia? Are these needs only the needs of Ukraine? If the answer is no, then we need to convince our friends as to what else needs to be done. Is a Friends of Ukraine network what we need? Perhaps what we really need is a Friends of World Peace network. The topic creates the impression that only Ukraine has an enemy. Only Ukraine is in trouble, and Ukraine needs help to fend off this militarily stronger enemy. For many decision makers in the world that have no or very little knowledge of the history of Ukraine or Russia, this presents a problem in identifying the real crisis and why Russia covets Ukraine. But when we consider the topic in light of who the stronger military force is and what its wider motivation is, we realise that the crisis is far more reaching, and the end objective is not just a Ukrainian problem. So in creating a Friends of World Peace network to defend Ukraine, it should be done in the context of all other countries in the region that are affected by the actions of Russia, the perpetrator. That is, the former republics and satellites of the USSR, Western Europe and the world. We will all come to this conclusion. Excuse me, I'm suffering from a bit of, in Melbourne, Australia, it's now spring, and I have this unfortunate problem. And of course, the cold weather here in Canada makes me weep. Anyway, so in creating a Friends of World Peace network to defend Ukraine, it should be done in the context of all... I've already said that, haven't I? Okay. We will come to the conclusion when we come to appreciate what Russia was before the collapse of the Soviet Union, what it is now, and what it aspires to be, what it sees as its rightful place in the world. Most political commentators around the world have addressed this and concluded that Ukraine is the first step in the Russian plan, or perhaps Georgia was. It worked. Alongside this, it is also doing much to destabilise life in the Western world through its enormous and sophisticated propaganda machine. So to make an informed and correct decision, we need to analyse Russia's intentions based on empirical data. Russia today portrays itself to be a good world citizen and therefore considers that it is entitled to be a world leader in decision-making for the whole world. It considers itself to be a victim, a wrongly defined bad guy. It considers the West to be its enemy, number one, even though the West always bends over backwards to have proper relations. It trusts nobody, irrespective of the existence of goodwill. It never adheres to international law. It uses the United Nations as a tool. It blames everybody else for criminal acts that it commits. It lies, cheats, and creates false truths. It hides and ignores its criminal past, be it under the Tsars or communism. It murders, assassinates opponents in Russia, Ukraine, and some living in the Western countries. It suppresses political opposition. It defrauds the public purse of billions of dollars. It treats its own people as a means of production and irrelevant in achieving its objectives. It censors and controls all media in Russia. It influences and creates fake news around the world for gullible people to believe and the not so gullible to spread far and wide. It bribes companies, organisations and individuals around the world to weaken their country's economic, political and social positions, thereby strengthening Russia's. It adds new weapons to its already massive arsenal, hybrid war, cyber war, to destabilise democracies. A day does not go by that the above is not true. Russia is not capable of being a democracy and a world leader, so it must bring more powerful countries down to its own level. For those who have eyes and ears and want to see and hear the truth, there is no better place to start than reviewing world events of the last 26 or so years. In the most recent Valdai Discussion Club held in Sochi in mid-October, the theme of the conference was Creative Destruction. Will a new world order emerge from the current conflicts? At this conference, the participants heard, apart from other propaganda, from a Russian scholar that the USA and Russia are engaged in a new Cold War, and as previously, this one is also the fault of the USA. In case the people present are not sure of what the Valdai Discussion Club is, it was founded in 2010 by the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Education and Science. In its website, we read that its aims are strengthening friendships and solidarity between peoples, preventing international conflicts, and promoting conflict resolution and crisis settlement. Wow. The scary part is that Russia has paid scholars around the world to attend these events, and the spin reaches far and wide. There is nothing good that comes out of the leadership of Russia. The motto of Putin and the Kremlin is, we do not trust, we will not trust, we do not need to trust. So anything goes. You play on our terms. We need to remember that this game does not end after 2 hours. It, under Putin's rules, goes on forever. Nothing that I have said thus far is new to world leaders. So how should the so-called free world play? Should we fight fire with fire, or should our position be to give Putin hugs and kisses in the hope that he will mellow and throw off his evil cloak? Some say that Putin is crazy. No, he is not. He is evil. No different to Catherine, Lenin, Stalin, and other leaders of the tyrannical dictatorship of Russia. Some American presidents have tried the hugs and kisses policy in recent years, and look at what we have today. In determining what our tactics should be in forming a Friends of World Peace network, we need to be mindful of several things. Firstly, not all politicians in the Western world are knowledgeable about world politics and the intricacies that exist. Most are there to pursue home issues in their sphere of interest. International affairs interest them only insofar as they affect their portfolio. Many politicians in the free world represent political parties that have extreme agendas and favour the hugs and kisses for Russia approach. Some politicians of various political persuasions are always looking for a photo opportunity, so they will meet with Ukrainians in order to build a good image within the community, ultimately seeking votes, but not necessarily truly supporting our cause. The most senior politicians that we speak to will push our cause a certain distance, but are afraid to go too far because they perceive that Russia will react violently. This has been the reason for not supplying Ukraine with weapons with which to defend itself today. Some politicians in countries that have done and are doing business with Russia are concerned about their own economies. The sanctions against Russia are also affecting their hip pockets. For many politicians, the number one priority is with home affairs and ensuring that they stay in government. When you invite politicians to your community functions, their speech writers will provide them with an appropriate speech, after which generally you will not hear from them other than to receive a thank you for the invitation note. This is nice for the community to hear, but will their representative push the matter further up the chain to the relevant minister? This is the norm for political parties. Yes, someone will come to your community function. See, we support Ukrainians. Please give us your vote. Typically, we accept this as being okay. We succeeded. But what did we really achieve? Unfortunately, our community organisations in many countries do not have the voluntary personnel to deal successfully with governments and cannot afford to pay professionals to lobby. So we need help. Some Western countries have already formed bipartisan parliamentarian groups to support Ukraine. This is good in the countries where we do not have these groups. We need to form them and need to be active in them by having a responsible person or persons on our committees to be in constant liaison. We also need to do the following, otherwise it may all be lip service only. Firstly, obtain a written agenda from the group and drive it. What is the purpose of this group? Secondly, provide the group with regular information about the dangers to Ukraine and surrounding countries from all forms of Russian aggression, which also has serious consequences and long-term consequences for Europe and the world. Suggest to the group what the policies of my country should be. Obtain regular reports from the group of their deliberations and decisions. Obviously, the most important persons in government on these issues are the Prime Minister, President, Minister for Foreign Affairs and the Minister of Defence. We need to ensure that they are being briefed by the parliamentary group, seeking appropriate decisions and following it up. We need to convince the governments of the free world that whilst the sanctions against Russia are working, they have not had immediate effects on the situation in Ukraine or the surrounding countries. Russia continues to play the same game, even though they are suffering. This indicates that the sanctions are not reaching far enough. These sanctions are playing around the edges of the areas of concern, but where the core hurt hasn't yet been reached. Support export of oil and gas for one. Bill Browder mentioned a long time ago that if you really want to hurt Russia and resolve this whole issue very quickly, then deny it access to the SWIFT banking system. Yes, this is extreme, but everything that Putin is doing is extreme. He is the new Russian instigator and supporter of the horrible disruption and misery around the world. The death of countries, thousands of men and women and children, the countless thousands of orphans, widowers, displacements from family homes. He is an evil tyrant and is currently winning against the leaders of the world, the whole world. So believe me when I say that this is a world issue, not just Ukrainian, and that this is planned to be a permanent bout. No time limit has been set, so what we must do to win is deliver the knockout punch. Ukraine is reforming, albeit slowly, in very difficult circumstances to achieve a stable democracy. Much progress has been made, and that is what we and of course the Western world wants. So let's play ball together. In conclusion, I propose the World Congress of Ukrainians takes the following steps. Firstly, reactivates the ABN, the anti-Bolshevik bloc of nations model. Form a strong alliance of countries that are currently threatened by Russia's activity, for example, the Baltic states, Poland, Belarus, other Eastern European nations, Israel, etc. Obtain regular detailed information from the Ukrainian ambassadors to the United Nations on matters that will be raised by Ukraine so that members of SKO can lobby representatives of their countries to support the motions. This will be critical in December when the resolutions on Crimea is proposed. Also, the UN peacekeeping force in the Donbass region issue, proposed by Putin, must be defeated because he is treating the world like a bunch of fools. Establish a world Friends of World Peace network consisting of world leaders aimed at reaching world peace through peace in Ukraine. Fourthly, prepare a regular dossier of information for the networks to facilitate regular meetings with the parliamentary groups. And finally, expose the Valdai Discussion Club for what it is. In the year 988, Ukraine accepted Christianity and have accepted God's law under the reign of Volodymyr Veliki. Since then, Ukraine has been a fervent Christian nation. It has lived in peace and love with all peoples. It has suffered much and is still suffering, but the light is at the end of the tunnel. So let's continue to be a Christian nation, which is so necessary to achieve world peace. Let us remind Putin that we are not fools, and that if he really is a Christian, and if he really wants Russia to be a Christian nation, he needs to change dramatically. So to conclude, yes, we should form a Friends of World Peace network through the Friends of Ukraine network. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!